So we are going to go to the portal, and I'm going to download Lab 12. So if you guys want to see what this particular lab looks like, you can find the Lab 12 details on the portal under the demo folder. Okay. So in demos, we're going to select Lab 12. I'm just going to download a copy of that. Save it to my desktop. Now I can go to my Lab 12 folder and open my Lab 12 solution. So in this Lab 12 solution, all we've really done is modify this profile reporter page. Looks like I created an all profile reporter, and here I actually used the ProfileSubTypePropertyManager. And if you look up the ProfileSubTypePropertyManager in MSDN, basically what it does is it allows you to get a list of all available properties. Regardless of the user that you're connected to, the ProfileSubTypePropertyManager allows us, as you see here, to do a for each loop and loop through all of the available properties. Alright, so basically what we're doing here is we are looping through each property in the ProfileSubTypePropertyManager. So essentially we're looping through each possible property that a user could have, and for each property we're creating a new cell, a new table cell, and we're putting the property name as a string in that cell and making it bold, and then adding that cell to the new row. Once we've looped through all the properties and added basically the row header, we add that row, and then we loop through all of the user profiles in the User Profile Manager. Now this part you're going to do in the lab, but instead of just looping through all of the user profiles and printing out 3 properties, what we're doing is looping through each of the user profiles, and then we've got a nested loop here where we're again looping through each one of the profile subtype properties, basically each property in the profile. And we're checking to see if the value is not null of whatever the current property name is. Then we're going to grab the value of that property, and we're going to stick the value of that property into a cell. But whether the value is null or not, we are going to stick something, either an empty or the property value, into the cell. You have to put something into the cell, otherwise you get a lopsided table, because we put a header for each one of the properties. If we just didn't create the cell, if the property was blank, then we'd have a missing cell. So we create the cell, and either we put an empty in it or we put the property value in it, and we add it to the row. Catch exceptions, write them to the screen. Basically, if we run this thing now, I'm going to set the all profile reporter page as the startup item, and then we're going to run this. Okay, so we're running the all profile reporter.aspx page in debug mode. So here's our application page, and at this point our application page shows absolutely nothing except for our bolded list of properties. At this point we have not created user profiles because we haven't accessed anyone's profile. It's like that old saying, if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, if you haven't looked at your profile yet, it doesn't exist. So until we actually go and look at our profile, and we want to actually look at our user profile. By the way, in the user profile, when it comes up here, the work email profile property doesn't actually show up here in our profile. Right? So if we want to view the work email, then we have to make some changes. So in the lab, they want you guys to update that work email, but in order for that to work, you have to actually go into central administration and make some changes. So now notice that because we looked at the administrator's profile, that administrator's profile information now appears as part of my page here. And this is why I'm sure the author of the lab abandoned this method of displaying the profile properties, because it scrolls out a half a mile to the right and outside the realm of our page constraints. So instead of looping through every possible property, the author of the lab opted to just go with account name, work email, and personal site. But notice, because we have a loop here, if we sign in as a different user, like bin OK and P @ symbol SSW0RD, we log in as bin and go look at Ben's profile. Look at his profile. Now Ben's information is there as well. Now notice I didn't have to save anything. I just had to look at it. The act of looking at the profile creates the profile information. And if we scroll down the way here, again, you notice that there is no content in the work email because we can't see or edit the work email in our profile. However, if we navigate to the profile reporter, because we're logged in as bin OK, we can set the default email for Benno, and we can create Benno's personal site. See that error, property not editable? This property can only be modified by an administrator. That's because I forgot to go over here to central administration and enable that email property. So in central administration, we are going to go and manage service applications. And under service applications, we are going to manage the user profile service application. And in the user profile service application manager, we are going to manage user profiles. We're going to scroll down until we find work email, and we are going to edit the properties for the work email. Now currently the work email under edit settings does not allow users to edit the values. So we're going to change that to allow users to edit the values for this property. And under display settings, it currently does not show the property in the properties section of the user's profile. So we wouldn't be able to see it or edit it anyway. It does show up on the edit details page, but when you're just looking at the properties page, it doesn't show up. So now we're going to add it to the edit properties page. Now, if we had Active Directory configured, we'd see a source data connection here, and we'd be able to choose from a list of attributes that are available in Active Directory to synchronize this property with. Since we don't have Active Directory set up, we can't do that, but that's where that synchronization would be configured. All right, so now our property is editable, and so we are going to now switch to Krishna S. And there you can see Ben's email, or Benno's email. And now we're going to go to Krishna S's profile. View her profile. Now, notice now if we scroll down, we see work email. And it says maybe you shouldn't modify that because it's updated automatically from the corporate directory. Changes to those properties might be lost if we import changes back from Active Directory. So now we're going to go back to the profile reporter, just the profile reporter, so we can set the default email and create the personal site. Now we're going to go back to being logged in as administrator. And you see that we have Krishna S at SharePoint.com, BenOK at SharePoint.com, and they both have their personal sites and email set. So, the one thing that you can't see from this demo here is that the administrator could create personal sites for all of the users that are logged in. However, the code isn't written in a way that this create button shows up for all of the users if you're logged in as administrator. It just doesn't check to see if you're an administrator. So if you wanted to write some code to check and see if the user was an administrator, the user could create a personal site for any one of the users that has a profile. And again, we can go to our All Profile Reporter page, and we can see the properties for the administrator, for BenOK, and for Krishna S. We scroll over, we can see their personal space. Scroll over a lot further, we can see their work email was created as username at SharePoint.com. Alright, so that's what the Profile Properties SubType Manager is for, to loop through all of the available columns.